There are many legends that tell of a large black dog that stalks the night that come from all over the world. Anybody with an interest in the paranormal, folklore, mythology, and legend has come across one, if not many different versions of this tale from every part of the world. And if you are a fan of the 2005 show Supernatural, you definitely understand the concept of a black dog. And today we will be talking about the black dog that has been known to haunt the grounds of Guatemala, Honduras, Costa Rica, Nicaragua, Belize, Panama, Mexico, and El Salvador. Hi, I'm Lady, and today we will be talking about the legend of El Cadejo, the black dog of Central America. So what is El Cadejo? Well, the most basic form of this story centers around travelers or wanderers who take to the streets at night, usually because they're coming home from the bar or they're a little bit drunk. And the basic outline of this story that follows in most versions is that if you are walking the streets alone, a black dog will appear, and if you are a bad person, they will either hurt you, bring you bad luck, or kill you. But if you are a good person, it's said that a white dog will appear and protect you and fight off the bad dog, and then make sure you are walked home. Though some versions say that the black dog is the one who also does this, and they just judge between who's good and who's bad, and then attack the bad and protect the good. And depending on different versions, like I just said, the black dog is sometimes the good dog. So we're going to go into each version from each country so that we can all get a better understanding of the legend. So the first one that we have is El Salvador. We're going to go first with this one because it was the easiest to get information in terms of research, because it is where my family is from. So I actually do know a little bit about the legend, or I did before I started researching and everything. I had a pretty basic idea of the legend, and when I had the idea to make this video, I called my mom. There will be no clips or phone calls with my mom. It was through text, where I just kind of asked her for what she was told growing up as a kid about the legend, because apparently my great-grandmother and my great-grandfather, who raised my mom, definitely believed that this was a real creature. And whenever there was like any kind of crazy sounds outside or the animals were acting up, my grandma would always be like, oh, there goes, or my great-grandma would always say, ahí va el Cadejo, which means there goes el Cadejo, and tell my mom to get inside. So the El Salvador version of this legend goes, now diving into it, is that in a village, there's no specifics as to the village, but it just says there was a village that had a lot of evil and harm, and when God looked upon it, he decided to send down a guardian spirit to protect the people in the form of a white dog. And after seeing God's interference, the devil clearly got upset and decided to make his own spirit to send up to interact with the humans that will be the exact opposite form of the spirit that God brought down, which was a white dog. So he made a black dog to attack and antagonize the people. So apparently, as it goes, that the white Cadejo is said to be a symbol of the pact between God and man, and is described as having white fur with blue eyes, while the black Cadejo is known to antagonize and bring bad luck, and is described as being a black Cadejo with red eyes. From what I understand from my mom's beliefs, like the stories that I was told as a kid, or was told and double checked with my mom, is that the black Cadejo, at least in the versions my mom heard growing up, was never a fear of a physical attack. It was more of an omen, or like an inciting incident for misfortune. So if you were to see the black Cadejo, it would bring you bad luck and misfortune, and you would have a really bad time. So it was important to not see the Cadejo, to not seek out the Cadejo. You would just kind of, you'd avoid it because it would be an omen of bad luck. But I did see certain versions while researching, because obviously I needed to do my research. I can't just take people's words for things. In my own research, I did find that there are El Salvadorian versions of the story that says that he will attack people if you cross its path, unless you are with the white Cadejo, who, if they're protecting you, will fight the black Cadejo and protect the person until they get home. Now, something interesting that I found only with the El Salvadorian Cadejo is that it whistles. So the legend goes that when the Cadejo is nearby, it'll whistle. And I guess this plays into the fact that it's more dangerous to see him than interact with him or to be seen by him. So I think that's where the whistling comes from, as like an omen, or like, he's in this area, walk the other way. But if the whistling sounds like it is close by, it means that the Cadejo is actually far away. But if the whistling sounds like it's far away, it means that the Cadejo is really close. Now, if anybody is interested in cryptids or knows previous stories of like other supernatural beings of South America, they will say that this sounds very much like El Silbón, which I thought of automatically too, don't worry. But I just think it's interesting that it's two legends now where a whistling that sounds faint means it's close, while a strong whistle means it's far away. I don't know. It makes me wonder what happens at nights there, or like a long time ago where you would hear these whistles. I don't know. I'm interested to hear that. No, I'm not. I take that back. I don't want to ever hear that. But yeah, the El Salvadorian Cadejo is known for that whistle, very much like El Sibon. So, which is another cryptid, and I could probably do a whole video on him. So that's all you really need to know, that it's very similar in that state. So we'll move on to the next region, or the next country. So the next El Cadejo legend that we have comes from Belize, and in this version, El Cadejo is described as like a goat-like creature or a very large dog, and is said to have the hooves of those like a goat and the horns of a bull, with a tail that resembles the tail of either a lion or a puma. It is also described as having eyes like flames and a foaming mouth. The legend says that you can hear El Cadejo by the sound that it makes, which sounds like chains being dragged through the streets, and will lead into the idea that El Cadejo is covered in chains. This is not the only country that believes so, but we'll get to that when we get to the other descriptions from other countries. But this version has him covered in chains, while another version says that the sound El Cadejo makes is more like a rattling, which is believed to be the bones of his previous victims. Like the El Salvadorian legend of El Cadejo, in Belize there is a white Cadejo and a black Cadejo. The white Cadejo is believed to protect drunks on their way home, while the black Cadejo is said to cause perpetual drunks to fall very ill. It is believed that the black Cadejo follows them for 9 days to make sure that they have no chance to recover. There is also a version of the story that says that the Cadejo only appears to travelers who are wandering the streets at night. So if you're planning to visit Central America, Belize in particular, just make sure that you're back at your hotel before dark. All right, on to the next legend. In Honduras, the legend of El Cadejo tells of a black Cadejo coming out or appearing at 12 a.m. The legend goes on to say that if a person with a good heart should be so unfortunate as to cross paths with the black Cadejo, then a white Cadejo will appear to defend that person from the black Cadejo and save them. Though if a person is deemed as bad, then the black Cadejo will attack the person without interference and kill them. Next, El Cadejo legend comes from Panama and tells of a giant black dog with red eyes. It is said that it gives off a strong odor of sulfur, and the legend says that El Cadejo is a manifestation of the devil himself. He always appears at midnight and is believed that the Cadejo only shows himself to men who are either drunks or womanizers, and are either leaving clubs or bars. He's said to have supernatural abilities that he will use to attack his victims, and some versions tell that he devours his victims, while others say that he takes their souls, though some say he carries you straight to hell, which is terrifying. Oddly enough, though, in other versions, this Cadejo is also believed to be the protector of those same people. So I'm going ahead to assume that in this version, it is one Cadejo, and he kind of plays judge, jury, and executioner, deciding whether to help people or attack people. But that's just like my own conspiracy theory that I'm taking from the way that this legend is told. Moving on to the next legend. According to the El Cadejo legend of Costa Rica, El Cadejo is described as a giant ghost dog covered in chains, as well as having the feet of a goat with the teeth of a jaguar and a very long fluffy tail, along with the signature bright red eyes. Although the common belief is that this Cadejo takes care of drunks to make sure that they get home safe, it is also believed that he scares disobedient children as well as children who are out too late at night, and it specifies that he does this without harming them. One version of the origin story of El Cadejo in this country is that a long time ago, there was a small community, and within that community, there was a corrupt priest who used his power and authority to pervert the base of religion and morals within that community, which led the community into sin. As punishment for his actions, God condemned him for 100 years. Some versions I found, though, said he was condemned to 300 years to be in the body of a black dog with red eyes. After his years of torment, whether that be 100 years or 300 years, it is said that he became deranged and couldn't take the weight of his life, which led him to throw himself into a volcano, though this did not kill him. Some say that his spirit is trapped inside the volcano and he is the one who causes volcanic eruptions. Another origin story legend tells of a drunk who mismanaged his money by spending it all on drink and treated his family absolutely terribly, especially his wife. Though he had an eldest son who was said to be very intelligent and who was frankly tired of the way his father treated him and his family, and so he made a plan to punish him. The plan consisted of dressing up as a monster in a costume made out of black leather and appearing to his father at night when he returns home drunk. The first night, it is said that he scared his father so much that his father almost had a heart attack, and so he continued to do it every day. One night, though, it's said that his father finally got tired and very upset with being scared by this monster, and so decided to take matters into his own hands. So he armed himself with his machete, instinct. He armed himself with his machete and took it with him as he left for the bar. And just like every other night, the monster appeared to him. And as soon as the monster appeared to him, he took out his machete and lunged at the monster. Though the monster stepped back, luckily, and avoided the attack. At this moment, the son decided, you know what, this isn't worth it anymore. If I don't say anything, I'm going to get killed. And so he said to his father, "Dad, don't kill me. I'm your oldest son. It was just a joke." It's said that at this moment, the father stepped back and decided to curse his son, which is kind of weird because I feel like if anybody deserves to be cursed, it's probably the abusive alcoholic who's being really terrible to his wife and kids. But whatever, the father is the one who curses the son, and he curses the son by saying, "May you walk on 4 legs all your life," or "May you walk on 4 legs for the rest of your life." It is believed that in that moment, the young man became cursed, and when he died, he was transformed into the phantom black dog. And for this reason, it is believed that he follows drunks home, much like his father, to make sure that they reach home safely. The last legend I have from Costa Rica tells of the youngest son of a family. I found that his name is believed to either be Benjamin or Cumche. I'll put the name up on the screen. And it's said that this youngest son lived a life of debauchery, and for this, his father cursed him, and so he became the Cadejo. On to the next legend. So the next legend that we have up is from Guatemala. And in Guatemalan legend, El Cadejo is described as a ghostly creature who haunts Guatemalan soil. The most popular version of this story says that El Cadejo is described as a big black dog with bright red eyes that look like flames. It is believed that he takes care of those who get drunk and wander the streets at night and helps them find their way home. Or, if they're too drunk and they pass out in the middle of the street, which I get it. I probably shouldn't say I get it because my mom and dad watch these videos, but I get it. El Cadejo is said that he will lay down next to you or fall asleep next to you to prevent you from getting robbed or from any harm coming to you, which is kind of sweet. Another version of this legend, like the other two, have a white Cadejo and a black Cadejo, but with a twist. In this version of the legend, it is believed that the white Cadejo is the protector of women and children, while the black Cadejo is the protector of men, which is cool. If I get lost in Guatemala, I get to have this majestic white wolf looking thing or white dog is following me. That's pretty dope. I think it's pretty cool. And while I was researching this legend, I did come across the fact that the white Cadejo and the black Cadejo are rivals in this story. So I'm not sure if there's a version that exists where it's like the other two versions, where a good Cadejo is the white Cadejo who protects people, the black Cadejo is the bad Cadejo who attacks people, or if it's just still the same male Cadejo and the female Cadejo, and they don't like each other for some reason. But in every version that I found, which I think is pretty cool, is that whenever a supernatural entity, a third supernatural entity, I should say, has entered the chat, that no matter what, the black Cadejo and the white Cadejo will team up to take down this third entity and to protect the people they're protecting, which I thought was kind of sweet, because it's even if they're mad at each other, or whatever the situation is, they hate each other or they're enemies, they team up to take down a third entity, such as La Llorona was one of the examples that I came across, which, I think is kind of sweet. I like the fact that the black Cadejo isn't necessarily a sense of fear in this version, and that both Cadejos are very devout into taking care of their people and making sure that their humans are safe. I also found a version that has a gray Cadejo, and Guatemala is the only legend that I found that has a gray Cadejo, but it was kind of infuriating because I couldn't find any information. I just found that there is a legend of a gray Cadejo that does exist in Guatemala, but I couldn't find what that legend is, what he is he neutral, is he good, is he bad? I'm very curious, so if there's anybody from Guatemala, please let me know, because I was searching for it and I couldn't find it. I went on I went through Spanish websites. I really tried to find information on this Great Cadejo because it's the only legend I found so far that has a Great Cadejo. And I thought that was very interesting. I'm what's his story? Is he good? Is he bad? Is he their baby? Because if the white Cadejo is the female Cadejo, maybe it's because she's a girl, and the black Cadejo is the male protecting one, it's because he's a man. Is it their baby? Is that why they hate each other? Were they together and it didn't end well? Are they exes? I need to know what the deal is with the Great Cadejo. I'm very, very curious, and every time I tried to look anything up on it, I would just get the same basic stories of El Cadejo, the white Cadejo, and the black Cadejo. So I'm very interested, but other than that, I couldn't find any other information other than there is a legend that exists of a Great Cadejo, which, interesting. On to the next legend. So the next legend that we have is from Nicaragua, and the legend tells of a giant white dog that is very strong and follows people on their travels home and protects them until they reach their home. In this legend, the white Cadejo is said to be a friend to mankind and is a protector of those who travel at night. Those who are followed by the white Cadejo are said to be protected and safe, as the white Cadejo will fight and defend them from anything or anyone that tries to hurt them until they reach their home. Though the white Cadejo is not the only Cadejo to walk the streets at night. Like the other legends, there is a black Cadejo in this legend. The black Cadejo is described as a large dog with black fur and a white collar on its skin. From that description, I would assume either the fur is white and makes it look like there's a collar around his neck, or there's patches of fur missing and his skin is showing and it's white and makes it look like he's wearing a collar. Either or, I just wanted to dive into that because it's the first kind of different description we've had of the black Cadejo. So, just to help you visualize, this Cadejo is believed to be evil and he terrorizes those who dare to travel at night. If this Cadejo happens to be the one that finds you while you're walking alone at night, this Cadejo will quickly pounce and attack you. The black Cadejo is said to attack by knocking down their victim and hitting them, which I found interesting that in this legend it describes the way that El Cadejo attacks you, because it doesn't attack you the way you'd assume a dog would, by biting you or possibly scratching you. It fully describes them knocking you over, hitting you, and even stepping on you, which I thought was, interesting, because like I said, that's not the typical way in which you'd imagine a dog to fight. But yeah, it just literally beats you senseless, though it won't kill you. It was said, from what I could find, that it'll just beat you up and then leave you alone. Speaking of getting beaten up, let's circle back to the white Cadejo, because although yes, in this legend the white Cadejo is the protective spirit, it is not a spirit you want to anger or mess with, because it is said that the white Cadejo will do the exact same thing that the black Cadejo will do to you if it finds you disrespectful. And what is described as being disrespectful to the white Cadejo is yelling at it, throwing stones at it, or trying to run away from it. So I guess what the moral of that is if the white Cadejo is protecting you, don't throw rocks at it, and hopefully the white Cadejo is very recognizably different looking to like a wild dog, because some wild dogs can be violent, so it'd be nice to know. You can probably tell the difference. It's probably glowing or something. But circling back to the legend, like the other legends, it's said that if you are being protected by the white Cadejo and the black Cadejo comes to cross your path, that the white Cadejo will fiercely defend you and fight the black Cadejo until he wins, or until the white Cadejo wins. Added on to this legend is also the fact that the Cadejo is said to never tire of walking, black Cadejo or white Cadejo. And it is believed that it walks all through the night until dawn hits, where they disappear into the morning. So the last region that we have from kind of northern/central America is from Mexico, specifically the regions of Oaxaca, Chiapas, Veracruz, as well as Old Mexico, California, specifically Baja California, where this legend comes from. In this legend, the Cadejo is described as a large black dog with thick fur and red eyes, and who is covered in chains. The legend goes that it appears at night, and when he is nearby, it is said that all dogs will react by barking and whimpering as if the devil himself were near. The reason behind this instinctual fear inside dogs is that there is a belief that El Cadejo is known to eat dogs, any dog that crosses his path, as well as puppies, and for this reason it is believed that it is best to hide your dogs inside your home if you believe El Cadejo is around. There is a saying, however, that it is possible to make an allyship with him, which is like, I guess it could be useful, but again, why would you want to? Anyway, in order to make an allyship with him, it is said that you need to walk with your feet together, no matter how difficult it gets, with your legs crossed. The belief behind this is said to be preventative, so that the Cadejo can't get in between your legs and carry you away. The next step is that if the Cadejo appears, that you should spit into the palm of your hand and offer it to him, for him to spit in as well. I couldn't necessarily find, just because English is my first language, Spanish is my second language, and I was reading most of these in Spanish, couldn't necessarily understand if you were spitting in your hand and offering him your spit, or if you're spitting in your hand and then outreaching your hand so that he can spit in your hand as well. Either way, this is what is said to help make the pact with him. So once that session or that part of it is complete, it's done. In terms of ways that you can protect yourself, it said that one way that you can protect yourself is by wearing your clothes backwards. And if he approaches you, bear with me on this part, it said that you need to urinate on your belt and then whip him with it while telling him to leave. Now, the mental image of this made me laugh, so I'm sorry if this was way funnier to me than it might have been to somebody else. But, like, I don't know, when I read you have to urinate on your belt and then whip him, it made me laugh. So, I don't know, like, I understand the logic of it because a wet belt is stronger or, like, it hurts more than a dry belt, but either way. One of the origin stories of El Cadejo in Mexico tells of one of the first Cadejos. Now, the way that they worded this when I was researching it leads me to believe that there is more than one Cadejo, but we'll get into my little conspiracy theories after I go through all of this. But it tells of one of the first Cadejos. So the legend goes that there was a young man that behaved rather loosely and immorally and irresponsibly, and for these reasons his father decided to sentence him to become a lost spirit covered in chains. Though there are other origin story versions that are very similar to the Costa Rican version that say there was a son who wanted to scare his drunk of a father and was then cursed by said drunk father to protect drunks just like him, as well as all people. And from here are all the alleged beginnings of a bad or rude person, or really any person being cursed by another person into becoming El Cadejo. Another version comes from the legends of Cadejos being shapeshifters or witches known as Cadejo Brujos, which translates to Cadejo Witch. They are believed to be Nahuals, which we'll go deeper into in a little bit because I have some theories. But in short, Nahuals are shapeshifters essentially. Though the Brujos are thought, or the Cadejo Brujos are thought to be able to transform into Cadejos by casting a spell, and these witches like to take advantage of this form. They use it to commit mischief, like killing chickens or killing any other animals, as well as breaking things, scaring people, stalking women, and stealing. They have also been known to wait on lonesome roads when the moon is full, waiting to frighten any individual walking this path by having them be watched and then notice their demonic eyes. It is believed that these witches do have the ability to transform at 12 a.m. underneath either a ceiba tree or a pochota. The reason for this may be to the ceiba trees being a portal or bridge that connects heaven, hell, and earth in Mayan symbolism, or I should say heaven, the underworld, and earth. It's also called a yashe. I believe, I apologize if I butcher that pronunciation, but the word will be on screen. It is known as the Tree of Life as it passes through each layer of existence as stated. This may even be where the Cadejo comes from. He might be coming from the underworld, and so he makes a pact and can walk through that portal. Another belief is that a transformation can be made by making a pact with the devil. It is also said that there are Cadejos who were never human at all. Another version of this legend is called the Hueypic de la Península de Yucatán. These creatures are said to be witches as well that can also transform into large black dogs with the red eyes. And like the last legend, it is said that these creatures like to take advantage of their animal form by scaring people as well as desecrating graves at cemeteries, which, if you know about the importance of a grave in Mexico, especially for like Dia de la Muerte, it's believed that that's a place where you can reconnect with the spirit of a past loved one. If anybody who's watched the movie Coco has a basic understanding of Dia de la Muerte, so it's a very big disrespect to desecrate a grave. And another myth says that the Hueypic attacks whoever has the misfortune of crossing its path, and that some say it's a reincarnation of Cacasbal, and I hope I pronounced that correctly. I tried to find a pronunciation video, but I couldn't, so hopefully I'm sorry if I mispronounced it, which in short, because it's a creature that has so much information on it, it can probably have a video of its own, but in short is a Mayan creature, or a creature of Mayan mythology, that is greatly feared for its evil powers, as well as the fact that it consumes human flesh, as well as many other things about it, including the ability to transform into any living thing. In Oaxaca, there is the belief of two cadejos, once again, a white cadejo and a black cadejo, one created by God and the other created by the devil. And it plays into the same legends that we've heard before, of the white cadejo being the protector and the black cadejo being an attacker. Though there is another belief that when a person passes away, they can come back and take care of their loved ones in the form of a white dog, which personally I think is a very sweet idea, that the white cadejo might be looking after a living loved one, or the fact that they are a past loved one. There is also a belief that says that El Cadejo will team up with La Tishanila, and I really hope I pronounced that correctly. Again, looked up a pronunciation video, could not find one. I don't know if my internet connection is just awful or my Google search sucks, but I could not find a pronunciation for her name. But for it now, she is another creature that also could have her own video with the amount of information on her, but just to be relevant, she is a female malevolent spirit who there's enough information on her, like I said, to make a whole video, but just for now, that's all you need to know. She's not somebody you want to cross paths with, but it's said that they will team up in order to punish people who are walking down wrongful paths. And that's the last myth that I have for Mexico. Bonus creature we have coming from Argentina. And I wanted to include this story, even though it's not technically an El Cadejo legend, because Argentina doesn't have an El Cadejo. This is a completely different creature. It's not believed to be associated with El Cadejo, but it is similar enough that while I was doing my research for the other El Cadejo legends, that it did keep appearing, as well as being referred to in some groups and some circles as the Argentinian version of El Cadejo. So I wanted to include it. It's not going to be a super deep dive, but I just wanted to point out some similarities in the story, and then maybe in the future, if you'd like, I can do a deep dive on it. But to begin with, this creature is called the Familiar. I've also seen it being called the Family Familiar or the Family Dog, and it is described as a large black dog with red eyes, though in some versions it said he has no head at all. It's also described to be covered in chains and be associated with the devil, so that's the 4 check marks right there in similarities with El Cadejo. It also is said to appear after midnight and is known by the sound of either chains dragging or by the fearful wails of the neighborhood dogs, which again sounds very much like the Mexico legend we just heard, as well as some other legends where the sound can be associated by dragging chains. So that's pretty much it. I don't really want to go into too much detail. There are some differences because, again, it is not an El Cadejo story, like the origins are different. But I did want to bring it up because I thought it was an interesting little link that we had there. Because El Cadejo is usually known throughout Central America. And I just kind of found it interesting that there was a legend like that that's a little bit more south, or maybe the legend kind of moved farther south. But I thought it was interesting, so I just wanted to add it on as like a bonus legend. Now that we've heard all the different stories and the legends from all the different countries, I wanted to dive a little bit deeper because while I was researching, it just still felt incomplete to me. So I wanted to learn what, for example, El Cadejo means, and I had a pretty hard time finding out what that meant. From what I can understand at most, Cadejo is believed to be linked to the Spanish word cadena, which means chains, which I guess it would make sense if all the Cadejos had chains. I understand that some of them had chains, but not all of them are described as having chains, so I felt really unsatisfied with that answer. I even asked my mom, like I just kind of voice noted her, does the word Cadejo mean anything? Like, is it sound like anything? And she was just like, no, it's just like the name of that creature. It's like the word chicken. Like, that's just what you call it. And I'm like, I wasn't happy with that. So I did a little bit more digging and I went a little bit deeper and I found that Cadejo could be connected to the word cabello, which means hair. which, you know, that one felt like kind of a reach because Cadejo, like at least Cadeno and Cadejo sound the same, or like Cadena, Cadejo. But Cabello is already like, it sounds similar, but it doesn't sound like it has the same building structure. But it could make sense. Like, I started thinking about it, and I guess it could be significant because the dogs known around Central America, especially in Mexico, one of the most, I guess, popular dogs around there that are like natively from there are a hairless dog. So I thought maybe if El Cadejo is covered in like thick black fur, it might be a reason to really point out the fact that this is an otherworldly creature because of like the hair. But in terms of like finding a bunch of different root words or like diving deep in terms of how the name came to be, I couldn't really find all that much information. So I just kind of have to settle on the fact that the word either came from the belief that maybe one of the first cadejos was covered in chains, or the fact that they were differentiating the fact that these dogs had a lot of hair, as opposed to the dogs that are native there that are hairless, which we will get into because I have some conspiracy theories. Well, they're not conspiracy theories, like I'm being dramatic. But I was just very curious as to how this legend, in like all of its forms, has a very interesting mix of indigenous and Mesoamerican ideas or folklore kind of sprinkled within the legends, as well as Christianity heavily in there as well. And I was curious if it was a similar situation to when maybe like Ireland or any Norse mythologies got incorporated within like a Catholic region, and they took the mythology that was already there and just added to it with Christianity. I was curious if it was something similar with El Cadejo, like if there was already the basis of an El Cadejo legend, but they added on to it with Christianity, very similarly like to how when Ireland was being converted, they added the Fae into Christian mythology in a way that would make sense, but kind of takes away from the original mythos of it. Depending on who you are, I don't know, maybe it makes it better for you. But I wanted to know if there was any original mythos that didn't start out with that. So the first thing that I'm going to get into is the idea of Nahuals, or Nahuals. I brought them up earlier as shapeshifters, and I said I would get more into it, and this is what I mean. It's not going to be a deep dive into this, but it's going to give enough information to connect the dots between this legend and the El Cadejo legend. Nahuals are believed to be either a person who can transform themselves into any animal, not just big dogs with black eyes. They are said to be able to transform into beings such as jaguars, pumas, and wolves as common examples of what the Nahual will transform into. I also found a belief that Nahuals are guardian spirits that can take the forms of animals or reside within animals, such as jaguars, deer, and birds. The word Nahual is believed to mean either the words hidden or disguised, which makes sense if you take into account that it's describing either a shapeshifter who hides within animal form or a guardian spirit that resides within the body of an animal, hidden or disguised by it. And this is what I find interesting, is the more that you think about these magical beings, they take the form of animals, and one of the most common forms listed was the form of a wolf. And I don't think that it's a huge reach to say that maybe the idea of the Nahuals transforming into animals got maybe rounded down or circled down to believe only that they can transform into wolves or dogs, especially when you take into consideration the importance that dogs have in both Mayan and Aztec culture. Circling back to what I talked about earlier in the video with the hairless dogs as being the native animal or the native dog of that region, they're called cholos, or their full name, and I apologize if I don't pronounce this correctly, but Xoloitzcuintli, as the type of hairless dog that's native to what is now Mexico. In both Aztec and Mayan beliefs, they were believed to be the companions of indigenous people and are believed to be the guides through to the afterlife. In terms of what that would mean, I found some different groups of thought around the idea of what the guardian dog would mean. One saying that it was a spirit dog that appears to the recently deceased in order to guide them through onto the afterlife or into the underworld. I did find one that was a little bit more sad, so dog lovers be aware, I'm about to say something really sad. It's believed that if a person would pass away, that their pet dog would then be killed in order to have the dog's spirit free to guide the owner's soul to the afterlife. Now, the word that they used when I was researching was they sacrificed the dog, but I don't know. That phrasing I don't know if it's accurate. It doesn't really sit right with me. From the description, it just sounds more like the belief was if they killed the dog spirit would then be free to guide their owner on to the next life. Looking deeper into these dogs, the cholos or the Xoloitzcuintli, I apologize for that again. I did want to look into it from a more indigenous kind of cultural aspect. So I looked into what that dog represented to the Mayan culture, and in Mayan culture, it looks like these dogs were associated with death as well as being protectors of health. And right there, I couldn't help but see a link between these dogs being protectors of health and one of the Cadejo legends, if not two or more, said that the Cadejo was known for causing illness and not attacking physically, but causing their victim to fall ill. So I thought that was an interesting connection that this specific dog was associated with your health. It is also believed to be associated with fire, as it's believed to be the dog that brought fire to mankind. And the next Mayan belief is a belief that's actually shared between Aztecs as well, and that is that this specific dog is the guide dog to the afterlife and to the underworld. Though separating it in Aztec beliefs, these dogs were believed to be guides in order to help the soul get through the 9 dangerous layers of the underworld in order to reach Mictlan. I apologize again if my pronunciation is not the best. I'm trying. But getting back to it, in a little bit of a combination, going back to spirits as guardians, a different belief tells that each person is paired with a guardian spirit from birth, and this spirit takes on the form of a dog, and this may be the dog that guides the spirit upon death. You know, a phantom dog keeping people safe sounds really familiar. But in case it's a little difficult, a good example I can think of is Dante from Coco, as he takes on the role of a guide dog, as well as like Miguel's kind of spirit dog and guide through the spirit world. And he is also, in fact, a cholo or a zolo. I apologize again, I'm not necessarily sure how to pronounce it, but he is the type of dog that would have been associated with those things. Now, while in my research, I did find some writings. It was some Spaniard documents of Aztec history and deities written by Bernardino de Sahagún, who is a Franciscan friar and missionary priest who participated in the Catholic conversion of colonial, quote-unquote, New Spain, or what we call today modern Mexico. Also, I don't know, I find the title of New Spain a little bit obnoxious, but that just might be like my Latina rage. So getting back on topic, these writings are from 1577, and from what I could find, I kind of started fishing my own little theory. I just want to say, I don't know if this is actually a theory. I'm not trying to take credit for it, but I didn't see it anywhere while I was researching, so this is just my theory from what I could find. So according to these writings, there was a belief that the deity Tezcatlipoca would take the form of as it's written, Coyotl, and the word I'll put up on screen as well, to warn people by standing in a pathway, letting them know that there's danger ahead, like robbers or thieves that lay ahead if they don't take another path. So this is where I'm starting to get a little conspiracy theory. So the name of the deity means smoking mirror from what I could find, and it's believed that his color is black. I wanted to double check the animal transformation because coyotl sounds like coyote, which can be interpreted as a dog. So I wanted to really double check that to make sure it was fine. And I found that his symbol is a jaguar. So I'm not entirely sure if it was a coyotl that as the form that it comes in or a jaguar, but the fact that his color is black and he'd probably come in like a melanized version of a jaguar or a coyotl, since that is his color. That's what I would imagine a deity who's called Smoking Mirror, whose symbol is a jaguar, would arrive as. But either way, whether it be a jaguar or a coyote or a wolf, for me, the gears started turning because it's a deity that's turning into an animal to ward off people. It sounds very, very familiar. Now, I just kind of, bear with me. Imagine being a Christian missionary traveling to a new land and hearing about their deities. Automatically, we know this from history classes, that they automatically made every other deity, every pagan god, every whatever, demons and devils. We know that this is something that they did. So if they were to hear that a deity transforms into an animal and is on the road, you know that they would automatically make the assumption that these are demons. This is something that we've seen done time and time again, where they take pagan deities or deities of that region and say that they're manipulative demons. Now, this is where the connection comes for me, because I have this feeling that the regions that believed in this legend of Tezcatlipoca doing this for the people who worshipped him, I think those are the regions where El Cadejo is believed to be the devil himself. And that's where I think the link is. I think that the regions that believed that Tezcatlipoca would appear as this strong animal, whether that be a jaguar because that is his symbol, or whether that is the coyotl like it was written in the writings, because his color is black, I do believe he would appear as a melanized version, or if they saw a melanized version of this animal, they would associate it with Tezcatlipoca, and that's how they'd be able to tell the difference between a regular coyotl or a regular jaguar and who they believed this deity was. And from there, I believe that when the Catholic Church or Spain came, well, Spain being who brought over Christianity, I think that they took this legend, and obviously with the whole idea of pagan gods all being manipulative demons, said that that's actually the devil himself. So those regions that believed in this legend believe that it's the El Cadejo is the devil now. Because if you noticed in the legends where it says that there's only one Cadejo, and it's only the black Cadejo, where he is associated with being the devil, he's also associated with being the protector and taking care of people. So I genuinely think that because they needed to fit this idea of, Tezcatlipoca is really this evil deity, which I don't know too much about Tezcatlipoca. I would need to look it up more. He is a little bit scary from what I did find. I can't disagree that a lot of the old gods are a little bit frightening. But I think because they wanted to shift their people more in the direction of reform, that they associated it with the devil, which is why he became El Cadejo and why he attacks people, and that was a thing. Meanwhile, the legend originally states that he would transform to protect and guide people, so that part of the legend still also stays. But it's also the same creature because that's what he was originally known for. But anyway, that's my little conspiracy theory, and where I think the dots all connect into seeing where the possible origins of the El Cadejo legend could have originated from. This isn't something like I read or whatever. I don't claim to own this theory either. It's just something that came into my head as I was researching and trying to connect the dots of what could possibly have been the indigenous influence into this now modern day legend that we know as the El Cadejo. And it clearly has both elements of the indigenous roots and the ideas that were there about the dogs being sacred, the dogs being associated with death or being protectors of their loved ones, as well as adding in the Christian ideas of God versus the devil, good versus evil, and that whole idea of angels versus demons. So I think that that's an interesting place to tie up that. But being the believer that I am, you can call me Agent Mulder, I want to believe. I did end up looking up sightings, and from what I could find, there wasn't really much. There was Reddit encounters under r/dogman, but I don't know how credible that is. The last sighting that I could find in terms of El Salvador was 1989, and the belief in El Salvador is that El Cadejo disappeared after the Civil War, because a lot of people said they haven't seen it since the Civil War ended. The Civil War taking place between 1979 and 1992. Fun fact, that's actually how I ended up here. Well, not me, I was born here, but my mom and her side of the family. Because she grew up in El Salvador during that time, and then she came to Canada. So, and that's why I'm here today to talk to you about the legend of El Cadejo. I thank you guys so much for watching and learning with me. It's nice learning about your, like, even if it's just the supernatural aspects of a culture, it's cool to learn the supernatural aspects of your culture and the cultures that are shared with your cultures, or like the ethnic groups or countries that around you that were like your neighbors. And it's just cool to see how interesting and connected and related everybody is. Anyway, this is the longest outro ever, and I really appreciate you guys coming on this journey with me. But I think I'm just going to close it out by saying I hope you have a lovely day. I hope to see you next week, and bye. It's not going to be a full-out deep dive. It's not going to be a deep dive. Aztec history and deities written by Bernardino. And for me, this is a special down to dogs, which is... There is also a version of the story that says that the Cadejo only appears to... which is something that should be taken into... and this is where getting away from the word. So it all comes back. It all connects to me. No, I'm kidding. That's self-centered. But wouldn't it be funny if I really thought that? Wouldn't it be so funny if I drove a Bugatti? I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna get hate.